The Levelanton 15 p.m. train to Crestwood rattled through the darkness, its fluorescent lights humming like dying insects. Jamie Rivera slumped in her usual seat, fingers numb from scrolling through her phone for the past hour. Another double shift at the hospital. Another night of listening to Dr. Langley complain about staffing shortages while she charted vitals until her vision blurred. She rubbed her eyes, the exhaustion settling deep in her bones. Just 15 more minutes and she'd be home, maybe even have time for a shower before collapsing into bed. The lights flickered once, twice, then died completely. For 3 heartbeats, the train car plunged into absolute darkness, the only sound the rhythmic clacking of wheels on tracks. When the light sputtered back on, Jamie's breath caught in her throat. He sat directly across from her. A man, at least she thought it was a man, in a tan trench coat so old it had turned the color of stale tea. His hands rested palms up on his knees, the fingers too long, the nails yellowed and cracked like old piano keys. A battered fedora shadowed his face, but she could see his mouth clearly. Someone had sewn his lips together with thick fishing line. The skin puckered and inflamed around the crude stitches. Jamie's phone slipped from her fingers, clattering to the floor. The train was empty. She'd boarded at the last stop alone, had watched the conductor move on to the next car. Yet here he sat, close enough that she could smell the damp wool stink of his coat, something metallic underneath like old pennies. The intercom crackled to life. Next stop Crestwood, the automated voice announced before dissolving into wet, choking static. When it cleared, the voice that came through wasn't automated at all. "Please mind the gap." It whispered in a tone that raised the hairs on Jamie's arms. The man tilted his head. Not a single stitch pulled taut, as his mouth moved beneath them. "You'll miss your stop," he said, except the words didn't come from him. They came from Jamie's phone, where it lay face up on the floor, the screen now black except for 3 words in glowing white text. Loo Oorsaidi. Jamie's pulse hammered in her throat. The train plunged into another tunnel, the lights strobing wildly. When they steadied, the seat across from her stood empty. She lunged for her phone, nearly sobbing with relief when the screen showed her normal lock screen photo. Her and Malik making stupid faces at last year's Christmas party. Then she saw the condensation on the window beside her. In perfect block letters, someone had written in the fog, "ILSE. Yo you a T har rice on ST." I slid down Jamie's spine. Harrison Street was her stop, had always been her stop for the past 3 years since she'd moved into the tiny studio above the laundromat. She wiped the message away with a trembling hand. Her reflection in the dark glass pale and wide-eyed. The train slowed as it pulled into Harrison Street station. Jamie hesitated. The memory of those stitched lips burned into her vision. But what was the alternative? Ride all night. She grabbed her bag and bolted for the doors as they hissed open, the cold night air hitting her like a slap. The platform stood deserted. Even the ticket booth window was dark. Jamie forced herself to walk at a normal pace, heels clicking too loud in the silence. She'd nearly reached the stairs when a burst of static crackled from the station speakers. Then a voice, Her own voice, stretched thin and warped, whispered one word, "Run." Jamie didn't need telling twice. She took the stairs 2 at a time, her bag bouncing against her hip. She didn't slow down until she'd reached Malik's 24, our cafe 3 blocks away. The familiar glow of its neon coffee cup, sign like a beacon in the night. The bell jingled as she stumbled inside, drawing stares from the handful of late night regulars hunched over their laptops. Malik looked up from the espresso machine, his usual easy smile fading when he saw her face. "Jesus, Rivera. You look like you've seen a ghost." Jamie collapsed onto a stool at the counter, her hands shaking too badly to hold the mug of coffee Malik slid toward her. There was a man on the train. She started, then stopped. How to explain the impossible? The stitched mouth, the words on her phone, the voice that sounded like her but wasn't. Malik's dark eyes narrowed. He pulled out his phone, thumbs flying across the screen before turning it to face her. A Reddit thread titled "The Steady IC Mayan CSTWOODSNEWRBANEND" filled the display. "This the guy? Tan coat? Weird mouth shit." Jamie's stomach dropped as she scanned the posts. User after user describing nearly identical encounters on late night trains and buses. The flickering lights. The impossible messages. One post stood out. A grainy photo taken on the Blue Line 2 weeks ago. The figure stood at the far end of the car, his face a blur of motion, except for that terrible stitched mouth, now stretched in what might have been a smile. "Third person this month to come in here talking about him," Malik muttered, pouring a shot of something stronger into Jamie's coffee. "Old Mrs. Kowalski from the flower shop won't ride the train past 8 p.m. anymore. Says he whispered her dead husband's name through her hearing aid." Jamie's phone buzzed in her pocket. A new email notification glowed on the screen. Subject Yayu from Dry Static Transit Mail at attachment voice at a memoed 3/17/2024 where Malik's hand closed around her wrist before she could tap it. Open. That. His grip tightened. "My friend died, he got one last week." Played it on her laptop. Now her Alexa wakes her up every night at 3:17 a.m. playing her own voice back to her. Except it's saying things she's never said. A shiver ran through Jamie. Outside, the streetlight directly across from the cafe flickered once, twice. When it came back on, a tall figure stood beneath it, the brim of his fedora shadowing his face. Even from here, Jamie could see the glint of fishing line in the neon glow. Malik followed her gaze and went very still. "Well," he said quietly, reaching under the counter. "Good thing I keep the good stuff back here." The baseball bat he laid on the counter looked well used. "You're not walking home tonight." Jamie barely heard him. Her phone had locked itself, the audio file already playing. At first, just static. Then, clear as day, her own voice whispered through the speaker. "He's not a man. He's what lives between the signals. The silence when your call drops. The glitch when your video buffers. And Jamie, he's so hungry." The lights in the cafe dimmed. Every phone on the counter, every tablet left charging at the tables lit up at once, a chorus of notifications pinging through the sudden silence. Jamie's screen changed, the audio waveform replaced by a single line of text, M-tirans M-titiagitaiam, toho estas asem. Then the screaming started. Not from the phone, from the street. The figure under the streetlight threw back his head. The fishing line snapping as his mouth unstitched itself in one smooth motion, opening wider than any human mouth should. The sound that poured out wasn't human either. 100 voices layered together, some screaming, some laughing, all warped beyond recognition. The cafe lights exploded in a shower of sparks. In the darkness, Jamie felt Malik grab her arm, dragging her toward the back. "Move!" he shouted over the cacophony. The last thing Jamie saw before the emergency lights kicked on was the front door rattling in its frame, the silhouette of a tall man standing on the other side, his fingers, too long, too many, sliding through the mail slot. The next morning, the police found the cafe intact but empty. Coffee still warm in the pot. Wallets and phones left on tables. The security footage showed nothing but static from 3:17 a.m. onward. Jamie never boarded the 11:15 train again. She quit her job, moved across town, bought a car with her meager savings. But sometimes, when she's driving home late at night, the radio will cut out for exactly 17 seconds. And in that perfect silence, she could swear she hears something breathing in the back seat. Malik reopened the cafe after a week. Business is better than ever, though the night shift baristas keep quitting. Last month, a new hire asked why the old radio behind the counter only plays static after midnight. Malik didn't answer. Just slid a baseball bat across the counter and told her to mind the doors. And if you're ever on the 11:15 to Crestwood, and the lights flicker, and you suddenly find yourself alone in the car, don't check your phone when it buzzes with that unknown number. Don't read the message that isn't from your contact list. And whatever you do, don't look up when you feel the seat across from you creak under sudden, impossible weight. Because the static man doesn't just want a witness. He wants a voice to wear. And he's learned enough from all the others to sound exactly like you.